Greetings and hallucinations to all you folks out there. I am here for an epic. This is going to be a terrible attempt at probably the worst game I could possibly pick to cast because I'm going to be stuck in this chair forever. But I'm going to do my best to bring it to you with a good bit of enthusiasm. This is, of course, Setons. It is a 3 versus 3, oddly enough, and I do know for a fact that this replay is dang close to an hour and a half long. So I am going to bump up the speed very early on this game. We'll go ahead and dive in, introduce the teams. I'm going to try to burn off as much as I can early because this is going to be a long, drawn-out, extended process, but I do know that this game is going to be epic. Alright, on the northern side, we've got TA for life in the orange going Aeon on Navy, Gizmo Dan taking Seraphim front, and Dawn going Cybran Navy. On the southern side, we have Alex, UEF on the rock position, Factions going Seraphim front, and last but certainly not least, Damiani going Aeon Navy. And do not let the 1200 fool you. These guys are all dedicated Setons players. That's about all that they play, and they all know their slots very well. This should be a good game. Alright, on the front, we have aggressive reclaim from both front players. Factions is sending an engineer around to grab the Tech 3, sending his ACU up to the front to grab the Salems. And so be it. Gizmo Dan is taking the more aggressive early stance, laying down factories in the front with his engineer instead of reclaiming, relying on his ACU to reclaim and bringing a ton of artillery to the front. We'll definitely have to check and see how that works out for him because I don't think it will. TA for life going double land, hydro, quadruple air, and laying down Navy so freaking early. He is going to stall, I can guarantee you that, because Gizmo Dan is not going to reclaim as much as Factions unless Factions keep screwing up like this, where he's basically just running around trying to shoot off the artillery, in which case Gizmo Dan is actually going to make some progress, but he's also not reclaiming with his ACU, so what the heck is going on in the front? That is frustrating to see. Alex going early air, as Rock always do. He's already got his transport across at 4 minutes. And it looks like Damiani is also loading up. Transport is just now building for Dawn. So I don't know if he will be able to get the island or not. Factions is going to go ahead and try to get some more reclaim there. We'll have to get in and see what their totals were after front is finished. Alright, Damiani has 2 lands, some unused engineers that need to be reclaimed, or not reclaimed themselves. They need to be reclaiming, and a whole lot of unused stuff, and it looks like the southern team is completely neglecting to claim the expansion in the back. That is quite unfortunate because that's going to give a huge, and I do mean a huge, income advantage to the northern team very early in the game, which is obviously one of the most vital parts. Alex is going to make up for it by using his transport to drop multiple engineers on these locations and go ahead and get a jump start on production. Alright, we've got frigates away for TA for life and a naval drop from Dawn trying to get the early kill on Factions. Factions has very low health, is not looking good at all, and there's artillery waiting for him on the shore. He sees what's happening. We've got ground-fired artillery coming after his commander as well. This is not going to be pretty. First casualty. Factions is down on the front. Brilliantly done. That artillery did work out fairly well for Gizmo. Looks like Factions got under 5k, 4,500 mass. And actually that's kind of depressing. Only 42 reclaim on Gizmo Dan's part. But he did eliminate the other player, and he is now free to reclaim the entire center and donate that mass to his team as he sees fit. So in the long run, that is actually going to work out well for him. Alex now has subs in the water to counter the frigate rush from TA for life. And we're going to have a bit of Navy coming in from Dawn over here, and as is customary for Dawn, he is going to begin his proxy Navy just about every single time he builds a proxy Navy. I think that is the only build that he knows, but On the other hand, it does work out pretty well for him. The disadvantage to a proxy build is that you either win at 20 minutes or you don't win at all, because once your proxy base is defeated, if you're not able to maintain your proxy, you do end up being obliterated, and it's very hard to recover because you lose all your build power. You have no choice but to go back here and rebuild, and then this whole huge reclaim field out here with your factories and engineers and boats and everything else gives a tremendous boost to your opponent. So if you go for an aggressive build like this, you better make damn sure that you can pull off the naval denial, because if you fail, you are completely and totally screwed. Alright, got torpedo bombers coming in from TA for life. I thought that was going to go assist the southern side, but apparently it is not. We have a Cybern cruiser versus an Aeon destroyer. Not gonna try to micro that. This is unfortunate. Don is not off to a very good start, and Damiani has done everything right to deny that push. He is going to pursue the matter, moving up, killing off the cruiser, and is going to extend that destroyer up into the water. It's going to come under fire from the Salem, and it is going to run. Need to dodge and weave so you do not take fire, my good sir. And there's a little bit of that and a little bit of this. We've got a very large interceptor force coming in from TA for Life. TA for Life actually has roughly equivalent mass income to Alex, despite the fact that Alex has substantially more income, more mass extractor points. Although we can see Alex jumping up by leaps and bounds as he is ticking away his Tech 1 mass extractor upgrades into Tech 2. It looks like he is just about done with the rear and the better part of his base. He's got these going over here right now, and he's actually pushing out the UEF Tech 2 Navy. He is versus Aeon, so he's got a bit of a disadvantage going. Now, something interesting here, you might ask, well, why is TA for Life building stationary anti-air out here in the water? Well, the answer to that is that the Aeon frigates do not have anti-air. So that way you don't have to worry about mixing in shards, although shards are incredibly mass effective if you put them to good use. That way you can retreat into your anti-air and torp bombers will get wiped out. But when you extend like this with your subs, it makes things quite bothersome. But TA for Life does have a decent little group of swift winds and a huge swarm of interceptors, so he is going to be able to right the situation, and everything should be a-okay. Gonna lose a little bit of build power there, and had some sneaky subs trying to get around on the northern side, but that is going to be denied as well. And we've got the UEF cruisers pounding down fire on these targets, but that is not going to be very effective since the cruisers do not track moving targets. Alright, looks like it's going to be 2 versus World, and the Aeon destroyers are actually going to do pretty well for themselves. And I'm watching this game, and I do play a lot of Setons. I know people know that. Oh my goodness, that was so close. Wow. Those units were practically falling off the transport as it was being destroyed. I can't believe those things actually got to ground. Wow, that was a beautiful drop by Alex, and that is going to lose TA for Life, a Tech 2 power generator. Almost lost 2 of them. Or 3 total. Almost lost 2 more, but that was not meant to be. Down here, we do have a naval loss for Dawn, and this is going to be a major, major problem. Because, as I said before, now Damiani is going to get the reclaim field, and Dawn is going to have no build power left. So this is going to end horrendously. Now, we have a little bit of a mistake here. We've got the Coopers hanging towards the back, and the shield boats were consumed by those subs. TA for Life is actually mixing his navy incredibly well, using his subs to reach out and hit defenseless UEF targets and then run back away from the Coopers, although right here we're going to see them go for the sacrificial kill on the frigate, and or not the frigate, the cruiser, and fail to do so. I do play Setons a ton, and when you play Setons a lot, you get to know the players and their play styles, and it gets kind of funny because it's very easy to fall into a pattern of hating on people because they fail at certain things. But in reality, what happens is you learn the players, and the ones who cannot adapt to new situations, you figure out who they are. And then once you figure out how to deny the strategy that they always use, they utterly fail because they cannot be inventive. And that is a lot of Tech 2 artillery. Holy kashmolis. And Dawn is one of those players. He has a ridiculously strong beach push. He plays beach. That's pretty much the best slot that he has. He can do rock competently, but not quite as well as beach. And the only beach build that he has is a rush build, where he does the proxy naming and tries to force you out of the water as fast as he possibly can. And I gotta say, that is the reason he's a 1500. He has a stupidly overpowered build, and when he's facing someone who does not know how to deny it very well, he can utterly obliterate them. The problem is that he does not adapt to new situations, and once he gets pushed back, if he fails at his initial attempt, he really doesn't know what to do after that. And I've seen him try to pull a bunch of different solutions, and I've also seen him give up after the initial push. But it's one of those things, you've got to be very careful not to fall into a degrading pattern, because if you let yourself get stagnant in your gameplay, eventually you will stop winning games once everyone learns how to deal with you. And something to point out, I know I'm saying a lot about Dawn right here, but this is a lesson. If Dawn, I do hope Dawn watches this, because she would do well to hear it. When she was defending the naval base right here, I'm sure a lot of you noticed that she was not moving her Salems at all. None. Zip. They were just sitting there on focus fire, whereas Damiani was microing 2 destroyers and succeeded in taking out about 2.5 times the mass of his navy strictly through micro. And Dawn actually had way more naval units, and the Salems are way more maneuverable. So there was really no excuse for losing in that situation. You should have really taken the extra time to move your boats around, and it would have turned out a whole lot better in the end. So maybe everybody can get a lesson out of that, get a few thoughts on how they should move their navy about, dodging and weaving, and basically running interference. But I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to hate on any one player that much. All right. Over here. The problem with UEF Navy right now is that the T2 is ridiculously weak. If you can manage to get to Tech 3 without getting pushed out of the water, you pretty much got the game made, because UEF Tech 3 is by far the strongest outside of Aeon, which can technically compete if you do it very, very carefully and correctly, but it is kind of difficult to do. Cybern is hopeless against UEF T3, and Seraphim is pretty dang close to hopeless now that the nerf has come through on the T3 Subhunter. So UEF is the undisputed king of the Tech 3 waters. The problem is with the Tech 2, they have a combination of short-range units and a lack of multi-purpose units. So Seraphim, for example, still has, well, there is no Seraphim Navy, so I can't put it out. They do have the short-range destroyers, and something you should notice, I don't know if anybody has ever put 2 and 2 together on this, it took me quite some time to realize it. Aeon and Cybern have 80 range destroyers with no extended range capabilities on their cruisers. They have the greater range on their destroyers, whereas UEF and Seraphim have 20 shorter range, 60 total on the destroyer, and the cruisers have ridiculously long 150 range. So that is to make up for the lack of range on the destroyers. Now for Seraphim, that's not really a problem, because you can submerge your destroyers to approach without getting hit on the Aeon or Cybern Navy. And you've also got a couple of tools at your disposal, as far as the awesome Zui that you can use to supplement your Navy, and the hover tank. Now UEF does have a good hover tank, but their destroyer setup is really pitiful. They technically have the strongest destroyer HP and damage wise, but it has a kind of odd firing pattern, which it's not quite as easy to dodge as Aeon, but it is relatively easy to spoof. And also, it is a surface-only unit with barely any torpedo damage. Like, Tech 1 subs will demolish any amount of UEF destroyers. They just have pitiful numbers on torpedoes. And then their anti-sub weapon, the Cooper, is a surface unit. So, yeah, you're pretty much susceptible to anything on the surface, and you have the shorter range combat units. And we have a strong air win for TA for life right there. That is going to hurt the Southern team's capabilities at the moment, because that means that Damiani is overextended with very little, actually practically no anti-air coverage. He has an aircraft carrier way back here. That is going to leave TA for life free to use as many torp bombers as he wants, wherever he wants to. And the Southern team is not really going to be able to do anything to stop him. And that is a depressing thought, as he also has restorers over here. So yeah, UEF is incredibly weak to surface, and if you can pick off all the cruisers, or if you can pick off all of the Coopers, excuse me, they can't really do anything against subs. So like if you're versus Aeon, you're pretty much screwed, because their destroyers are just as strong as yours are and have 20 extra range. So that's just a hopeless position to start out with. And then, well, unless you mix in a ton of shields and are incredibly good with micro, in which case you can kind of make up for it, but it's still very, very hard. And then when you're versus the Cyberns, the range is still there, and then the Seraphim, you can get in range, zap off all the Coopers, and then submerge, and the destroyers can't do anything about it because they have no torpedo damage, and the Seraphim destroyers can just demolish the UEF Navy at will without any problems whatsoever. Alright, this is just an inordinate amount of Tech 2 artillery we've got here. It is firing at the battleships out there. One disadvantage to the Aeon Tech 3 naval forces, the short range of the Omen class, but they make up for it in brutal strength. They have the highest DPS of any battleship, and you can see that once they get in range, they will pretty much take apart anything. So yeah, the naval denial has failed. If Dawn doesn't get his commander back in just a minute here, he is in danger of getting killed. He does have some harms in the water, but harms don't do you any good against hover units because they can't hit them. So Dawn is going to once again lose all his build power, and Damiani is going to get the mass. Now, Alex has pulled something interesting here. He does have an Atlantis. Now, that is not the best thing that he could have built under the circumstances. I definitely would have gone for the Tech 3 factory and some battle cruisers, because battle cruisers would have done far better. There is actually enough Navy right here to kill this Atlantis, I do believe, counting the mobile shields and all of the destroyers that are here. All he'd have to do is park the destroyers on top of the Atlantis, and the torp damage would quickly kill the thing off, while the mobile shields would interfere with the torpedo launchers. But he is instead going to go for the production. Don't know if that's the smartest thing he could do, because there is a substantial number of destroyers here, along with a whole lot of torp launchers. So he's going to have to be very wary here. He's kind of getting his Navy pinched up in between the Atlantis and the torp launchers and the destroyers, but he does have some backup rapidly approaching the scene. So he should be able to pull it out. TA for Life is a very good naval player, and I dare say has more experience on Setons than Alex does. So that is a problem for the Southern team. But Damiani is being a helpful teammate and streaming his hover spam over to the other side in order to help out Alex. Very kind of him to do, and that is going to help out tremendously. And air superiority is still going over to the northern team because of these aircraft carriers here that are just hammering the skies above that naval fight. Alright, Damiani is trying to get Navy back online down here, building frigates, which is actually a really good idea because frigates do beat battleships mass for mass. What do you know? It's like you build Tech 2 to get an upper hand on Tech 1, and then you build Tech 3 to get an upper hand on Tech 2, and then you build Tech 1 again. So it's basically just an endless cycle that never ends until one person has left the water, and I am disappointed there are not engineers here yet. TA for Life is moving these in, though, and he will soon be sucking up that yummy, yummy mass to feed into his factories of war, and create new machinery to throw into the water as more wreckage, and the cycle once again goes on and on and on and never ends until one player is forced out of the water and all the reclaim is taken. Alright, we still have 3 players on the northern team, but it appears that Gizmo Dan has not actually done a ton that I can see other than building up the mid in an effort to deny. He's got lots of Tech 2 artillery. This actually played a fairly significant role in hammering down on Damiani's navy that was in the bay here. The build power is still gone. The Tech 2 artillery installations over here are still gone. And unfortunately, he has now attracted the attention of the naval player. So this is not going to end well. I guarantee you those battleships are all going to come in, park at mid. The shields are already down. Down goes the Tech 2 artillery. He's going to lose all his production here, and that is going to be the end of the mid. This Atlantis has been worth its weight in gold. Okay, maybe not that much because I'm sure the Atlantis weighs thousands of tons, but you get the idea. This guy has killed 6 units so far, but it is actually more valuable than that because the torpedo damage on the Atlantis from that incredible range that it has. Let me hit this and you can see that green circle right there is the range. It has so much range. You are able to manipulate the enemy forces into areas that you want them simply by kiting. The range is so great on the Atlantis that the enemy is forced to run away from you to great distances if they do not have enough in the water to kill you. Additionally, the constant stream of torpedoes coming off of this thing does a very good job of keeping naval shields down. So that is a very bothersome thing to deal with, and overall it just serves as a huge disruption. I think the disruption that the Atlantis causes is actually worth more than the damage level that it deals out. Alright, I am down to +1. This is actually kind of depressing. I should have gone back in and clocked my CPU slightly higher. I have it down right now to about, I think it's on 4.2. I never thought that power consumption would be a concern with the computer, but this thing, the computer that I have now, actually significantly raised my power bill from before I got the last round of upgrades. So, I don't know. I can safely get about 4.4 or 4.5 out of it, and it's stable. I haven't really gotten higher than that. I think I may have actually gotten a lemon chip, because supposedly out of a 3570K, you should be able to get close to 5 at least. But even though I have water cooling, I've never had unsafe temps, and I've done everything that I possibly know to do as far as overclocking settings go, and I've consulted several people who are much better at it than I am, I've never gotten more than 4.5 out of it. So I don't know what the deal is with the instability on this chip, but I have come to terms with the fact that I will never be super duper fast on this one. Beautiful bombs coming in from those strats. Of course, the Siren Strat Bomber has that huge area of effect that I'm always talking about, which is why I love it, and that is one of the reasons it's amazing. You can knock out tremendous amounts of build power in one fell swoop with that huge area of effect. But unfortunately, when your Strat Bomber gets shot down before it drops its bomb, it does not have the huge area of effect. Good Tech 3 tank movement. The front is going to go down. Ox is going to lose this eco. He is actually not ecoing as strong as most people do. He is pouring a lot of income into combat units, which was the correct choice because, as you can see, he actually got his reclaim back, and he has forced TA for life back out into the middle of the ocean, and he's going to have to try to come in again. So overall, Alex is on good footing, but he needs to get his eco upgraded quickly because if you look at the northern side, there are far more Tech 3 mass extractors up here than there are on the southern side. The only reason that Alex was ahead on eco was because he had the front and nearly the entire rear, whereas TA for Life doesn't have quite as many in the rear as Alex does, but you'll notice Alex is now dipping below TA for Life as these Tech 3 tanks are wiping out the front position. That was his advantage, and it is now gone. And I had a yawn, which I tried to suppress, and that didn't work out very well. Sometimes when a bodily function wants to happen and you try to stop it, it is not worth it. Alright. Tech 2 artillery going to obliterate the ever-living daylights out of that group of Tech 2 tanks. That was like watching someone swat a fly with a sledgehammer right there. So overkill. Holy kishmoles. Alright. I am getting distracted easily. When games move this slowly on a replay, sometimes I reconsider why I am actually watching this replay in the first place. I do know that it's an epic game, but at the same time, watching action crawl by that I'm not actively involved in is sometimes a little strange. I want to do things differently. I want to take control of the units that are on the map, and I want to be involved. Watching passively, I don't know. I guess I'm an impatient person. Who knows? Alright. This Atlantis is moving up just a little bit. There's not really a whole lot of torpedo units left to deal with it. TA for Life has neglected to build any more sub-hunters. Which, actually there is one right there that was built a while back. The destroyers do have incredibly good torpedo damage. Aeon destroyers are actually very strong in that regard. But, I would think that some sub-hunters would be a wise investment so that they could get up on the Atlantis and not have to deal with surface fire from these summits. Down here, Dawn has put a megalith in the water, which you might say, the megalith is a land experimental, why are you sticking it in the water? Well, you, sir, do not play Cyber Navy nearly enough. Cyber Navy in the Tech 3 stage gets rather unconventional. Basically, you drop SACUs in the water, you go for a couple megaliths, you go for harm creeps with the SACUs, and you build battleships. And you build SAMs with the SACUs as you need them, because Cyber Navy anti-air sucks. And it sucks hard. It is hopeless. You should not even try to use it. You can build aircraft carriers if you want to, but they are not going to be very effective. You're better off building SAMs out in the water. So, this is actually correct. The megalith does 360, I think. 360 damage per second in torpedoes, and you can see the firing pattern is actually incredibly effective because it spoofs torpedo defenses. It's in one continuous stream, and torpedo defense, whether it be flare or actual charge, cannot deal with the megalith's torpedo barrage. It is very strong, and it has a good range. Another thing about the megalith is that it actually moves faster underwater than it does on the water by a fairly significant amount. So using it underwater is actually a huge plus, because even if you're aiming for a landfall somewhere down here, it is far, 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 far faster to walk through the water a greater distance than it is to run down the neck. So that is something to keep in mind as far as the behavior of that unit. Something else, there are some shallow spots in the water which are technically water covered, but if the megalith stands like on these stones or something, you can duck in and out of the water, and the megalith is oriented so that, well, you guys know what the megalith looks like. The cannons are mounted on the absolute highest portion of the Tech 4 unit. So all you have to do is poke your shoulders out of the water. You have a very small target. Sometimes the enemy will not notice that you're there, and especially if you have a stealth unit nearby, they will not be able to fire back at you very easily, and you'll have this tiny, tiny exposed amount, but the shoulder cannons will be able to fire just fine, bringing that 3,000 plus damage per second to bear on the enemy navy. When they notice you, you dive back into the water and then silently begin your torpedo barrage once again. So the megalith is actually a very handy capable, that sounded bad. It is not handy capable, it is a handy and capable unit. To supplement your Cyber Navy. And I'm actually going to return to Dawn's play. I would strongly encourage Dawn to be investing in lots of SACUs. SACUs are a critical part of Setons, not only for the resource allocation upgrade, but also for the upgrades that they bring to the party. For Cybern, you need to be dumping in the water engineer enhancements, stealth SACUs, so that you can start your harm creep across the water to force the other player back out. We now have 2 Atlantises in the water. The original one is actually still alive, pulling 21 kills, has a veterancy on it. Actually, I think that's 2 veterancy. And is overall doing pretty well, despite the fact that it is taking fire from omens. We have some Tech 3, not Tech 4, Tech 3 missile ships online for TA for life. Those things have the greatest range of any naval vessel of any faction. Well, strat subs have more, but that we're not going to talk about that because that's not. Excuse me. That is not conventional weaponry, so to speak. You can see the range there, and we have something incoming. What is it? It's ASF to try and knock out those restorers that are being a pesky problem. A thorn in the side of Alex. He's going to take some heavy air losses there on that turn. And there's still 2 restorers left, but he is going to recover coming around back. TA for Life's going to run. We got Damiani coming up with a handful of ASF. It's going to bypass completely, and the restorers are down. Alex's, that was a very large missed potential for TA for Life. Actually, he could have obliterated. I think the word of the day is obliterated, because I think I've said that 4 times this cast already. Oh my goodness. I need sleep. Alright. TA for Life is... I do not have words. My words fail me. I don't know what that was. Stopped his ASF completely right in the middle of the pass and allowed Alex to land a substantial amount of hits. Okay. We've got Tech 2 subs in the water along with the Exodus class destroyers. Those are making life difficult for that megalith. I think the megalith is actually about to get lost. Not a good thing. Let's go ahead and look around. I have not seen a nuke launch yet, which is very, very strange. I see lots of Tech 3 power. I see lots of eco. I do not. Oh, there's hives. That's interesting. There's a nuke defense. I don't see a nuke anywhere. I may be totally mistaken about that. I may just be overlooking it. I don't think I am. I don't see a nuke. Alright, on the southern side, we also do not have a nuke. There's a nuke defense. Let's go check out Alex's base. That is a Tech 3 station artillery, not a Maver. I don't know why he's building that back there, because it will not have enough range to reach anything practically. No nukes by either team at all. That is very strange. Very, very strange indeed. To be 50 minutes into a Setons game and nobody's building a nuke. Unless I completely missed something and it got killed by strap bombers or whatever. But I don't think that is the case. That is a Maver! What? Excellent, my good sir. Alex, you earn major kudos for attempting that. Alex is pulling 470 eco, and he has reclaimed 111,000, and as he is slowly forcing TA for Life back across the water, that is going to give him the mass and reclaim to succeed in building that Maver, as long as he does not stall out too hard and fail in Navy once again. TA for Life has reclaimed a paltry 75,000 in comparison to Alex's huge number, but his eco is substantially higher. He's pulling 530, about 80 higher than Alex is. And again, the reason that the reclaim is lower for TA for Life is because Alex did succeed in pushing him back, and when you push a naval opponent back, that means you get the reclaim in the wake of the war. And actually, Alex is not doing an incredibly efficient job of reclaiming, but I imagine that the engineers will be coming out in force. Yes, there they are. And as soon as he starts that Maver, he's going to be sucking up every bit of mass that he can get his grubby little hands on. Alright, Gizmo Dan. 11,000 reclaim, pulling 250 mass income, and building a quantum gateway. That is Cyberin. So he did borrow an engineer for that. That is actually an excellent choice because he can jump into the water and dump his eco in to help one of the navies. And let's check in with Damiani. 35k reclaim. He really needs to get out in the water here because there is an absolutely absurd amount of battleships out here. There is probably 100,000 mass in the... Well, no, there's definitely, because there's a megalith. There's probably 250,000 mass worth of... 200,000 mass worth of units out here in the water, just waiting to be sucked up by whichever player gets there first. Dawn has over double the reclaim that Damiani has, and he is pushing 336 eco, which is behind Damiani's 380, so Damiani is pulling 40 more. Well, he does have the island, but some of the mass extractors have been killed on it. Very interesting. Alright, we have an Owasso going up. That is where Gizmo Dan's mass is going. That is why he is so negative at the moment. I was wondering about that a second ago, but we now have spotted the T4. This is actually going to be a very handy tool in this naval war because the Owasso can wipe out huge swaths of flak and also damage the Atlantises that are under the water at the same time. And we do have Tempest. We have Tech 4 naval warfare. I guess you could call this advanced warfare, snicker snicker, and these guys are going to start slugging it out in the center. Unfortunately, the Tempest does lose in a torpedo battle to the Atlantis, so it is going to have to be supplemented by other units. I'm not sure how well this is going to fare, but we shall see. A huge cannon really should be put to use. If he could go back here and start ground firing this navy, it would do huge amounts of good. And the harms have forced these Tech 2 subs back, although they did do a substantial amount of damage to that navy. And Damiani really needs to get on the reclaim. He needs to get transports out ASAP. There they are right there, and get engineers over there because his push weakened. And Dawn was able to deny it with the help of this Tech 2 artillery. Damiani desperately needs to get this reclaim in his pocket and throw down some Tempest or some Tech 3 missile ships. What are they called? The Torrents. My mind is going away from me. There is a Torrent right there. He needs to build 7 or 8 of those. To sit behind his sub-hunters, push in close to the bay with the sub-hunters, and keep the Torrents about like back here somewhere, well out of reach of the Tech 2 artillery. And with the choke here, the Navy has to go through and overcome the sub-hunters to hit the Torrents, and then the Torrents need to just shred this base. That would be very easily done. I think Damiani would do well to rethink his naval mix, but overall he's doing pretty well. He hasn't lost his water. And Dawn is, as I said much earlier, a very strong pusher. So once he dies, she dies, excuse me, it's not going to be that hard to keep her pushed back. Alright, that's some controlled Kang going on there. What were those building? Tech 2 power generators, I think, maybe? Yes, perhaps, possibly. And the Owasso is finished. We're about to see some carnage on a whole nother level. Hopefully Gizmo Dan knows how to micro it, or we'll give it to TA for life to micro, because that thing needs to be babied to get the maximum potential out of it. I'm actually very surprised at how few ASF have been built this fight. There are not many. TA for life by far has the most, and even he has only maybe 50, maybe? Let me check in. 70. And Alex has 40. Yes. So TA for life has a huge lead. Even has restorers here, so as long as he pays attention to his air and doesn't do anything too stupid, he should be able to get it just fine. Alright. TA for life is dangerously close to losing his navy. There is a horrendous amount of hover spam pouring out over here. It is pretty much all blazes, thanks to his lovely teammate who is building Tech 2 support, actually Tech 3 support factories, pushing hover units, which has way more build power. He is just flooding the water with his hover units, and that is doing terrible things to TA for life's build power. He has lost his Tempest. He has another one almost done, but, well, no, it's not almost done. It's like half built. I don't think that's going to get finished. Owasso is on its way out. It is going to land a hit out here. Gizmo Dan is at the helm. Hopefully he will do his team proud and not lose that thing. There was an air fight just a second ago, so there is no air left to deny that Owasso has pretty much got free reign of the territory as long as it doesn't die to flak or cruisers or something else stupid. And we're going to see a failed pass. We're going to watch Gizmo Dan's moves here. He's moving away. That is good. And he is circling back too soon. I don't think he's going to clear his firing range as he gets turned around unless he's firing way back here. He's going to try for it, though. Looks like he's lining up for a shot right here. Is he going to make it? Where is his... Ah, he is going down here. Good. I think he probably needs to practice his ass washer micro. Was that a drop? Yes, it was. Shields are... Was that shields? I think it was. Ah, well. We did get a solid hit on this cruiser and this Atlantis and some units that were in here. It's going to circle around. Honestly, at this point, I think he probably just needs to target a unit and let it do its work. Because when you have air superiority, there's not... I would just leave it up to the natural firing cycle of the Owasso unless you can actually manipulate the bomber effectively, which I think Gizmo Dan is having some problems doing. Alright. Fortunately, that is starting to do some damage. It's knocked out 2 of the summits, and then the strat bombers are doing some more damage, but unfortunately the hover tanks are already in the build power, and that is not a good thing at all. Actually, did the HQ get killed? The HQ died. Not a good thing. TA for Life is going to lose the ability to produce higher tiered units until he can rebuild that HQ, and that has put him in a tough situation. He's actually got to reclaim a patch to be able to build a factory. He should be paying attention and building a factory right hereabouts, but he looks like he just decided to start reclaiming. Alright, he does have Tech 3 Torp Bombers, so the situation is well in hand. I think they will be able to recover from this quite easily, and it won't be an issue. Alright, more bombs connecting down here. Looks like the Owasso Micro is getting a little bit better. He's doing things properly now, dragging around an attack order on the ground so that he can hit more effectively, wiping out huge chunks of blazes at a time. That is very, very nice. Maybe we'll start to see some cruisers from Alex. That would be the best thing. Excuse me. It is past 11 o'clock at night, and I am casting an hour-and-a-half long Setons. Like I said, this is a terrible idea to cast this game, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm a stubborn individual and I wanted to do an epic. So dang it, I'm going to finish. Alright. So many bombers of every shape and side and faction and color and creed and religion and all of that other nasty stuff. We've got so much air power brought to bear on Alex. This is gut-wrenching to watch. If I were Alex right now, I would just be screaming and beating my keyboard because lack of air control lost me a navy that was won. He had TA for Life pushed completely back to his shoreline, and then thanks to an Owasso and some strat bombers, that was just ripped out of his hands, and he is now halfway back across the water. TA for Life is going to secure this huge, tremendous amount of mass and turn that into something useful, and who knows what is going to happen next. That Maver was canceled. Don't know what the plans are now. We've got nuke defenses all around. No nuke launchers still that I can see. Alex has decided to try and break front, actually. He is making massive amounts of Percivals and pushing those up into the mid. He reconsidered the Maver when he lost the reclaim potential. So I do give props to him for actually making decisions on the fly and not becoming bullheaded like some people do. And it's like, well, I wanted to build this unit and I'm going to build it regardless of what happens. And that's how you lose games. So he is actually going to apply his mass to power and more useful things, combat units and such, while this Owasso continues to tear him a new one in the Northern Sea. So many ASF. TA for Life really stepped up his air game on that one. Very beautiful bomb right there in the middle of the formation. Going to take out 3 Mexes. And the build power that was left on the island. There's a couple of engineers up here, but alas, those are not going to be able to do much once they are dead. Dead as a doornail. Subs and hover units are once again in the water here. Damiani, I have another tip for you. Please do not park your hover tanks over your subs, because the Tech 2 artillery is going to fire at the hover units and the area of effect is going to kill your subs. So you basically just cut your own hamstring on that one. That was not good. And also, please, 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 please build some freaking torrents, because that artillery is murdering you in more ways than I can possibly describe, and you really need to get that taken care of. And now here is some of the best engineer placement I've ever seen in my life. Of course you want to drop your engineers right in the middle of all of the enemy's hover tanks, because obviously they can't get shot. As we saw in the last cast, engineers trump Mantis. Now he is expecting engineers to trump Blazes, and it looks like they're actually doing a decent job. We've got one going down to reclaim there. We've got attack moves from these reclaims. Actually, not attack moves. They're going after the high-value targets. And they're going to die, but he is going to get more than his mass worth in reclaim out of them. So, all in all, a net win for Don. Just kind of an interesting method of going about it. Alright. The Tech 2 artillery has been rebuilt on the shore. And Don really needs to think about some harms in a bad kind of way, because harms are the strength of the T3 Cyber Navy. Well, one of the strengths, one of the very few strengths, and he really needs to take advantage of them to get any leverage in the water. It would also be a good idea to build torp bombers and or gunships, because at this moment, well, I don't know. Damiani does have enough flak. Gunships would be a bad idea. Scratch that. He could build torp bombers, though, because the Northern team has complete and total air domination, so it would not be a big deal at all. The Tech 3 Naval Factory is down thanks to that Owasso. The HQ, anyway. And that was actually the only HQ that Alex had. Oh, no. That is not good at all. He is now going to lose the ability to produce high-tech units after these guys are done producing. The factories will reset and not be able to produce. That is a horrible situation to be in, especially when you have a pile of Tech 3 torp bombers and an Owasso over your head, and you really need to get those cruisers out to help Nye. He also needs to be building SAMs all along this shoreline and out here, in the anticipation of the Owasso coming to shore. Also, as the Owasso is circling around overhead, the SAMs will be able to land hits here and there. That Owasso is done vetting, so cumulative damage is the key now. It's not a futile effort to try and lay a little bit of damage every pass, because the Owasso is not going to have any more health jumps. Alright, that was interesting to watch. Going to see some vetted in ASF as they murder all of those interceptors, and that is going to be that. Don building a truly impressive amount of battleships here, pouring them out of these factories under the assistance of hives. Actually, that one is building destroyers. Alright, but the hover units are on the way, so destroyers should actually be the main focus. This is one thing that Damiani is doing correctly. He has swapped almost completely to hover units in the face of the battleships, because battleships are terrible at dealing with hover units. It is a fact of life. You know, once you lose Tech 3 Navy, you revert to Tech 2 hover. So, that is being done, and Don is having trouble dealing with it. He's going to lose a couple of battleships there, and he is under severe fire. Hopefully he will be able to get out enough Salems to overcome that, but there is just so many hover units headed across there. Alright, looking at the northern side, what have we got here? We've got Tech 3 support factories going down. And there are actually Percivals in this fire base over here now. One of the shield generators has been taken out. 2, 3, 4 of the shield generators have been taken out. So the Percivals are doing their job, but unfortunately there's a bunch of restorers up at the front. Maybe the Tech 3 mobile anti-air will be able to take care of them. I know not. There may not be enough. And it looks like TA for Life has abandoned... Well, no. TA for Life has not abandoned the Owasso. The Owasso has abandoned its air cover and dived further inland, which is a very poor decision. There's no veterancy left to get on that Owasso, and the ASF are pursuing and is down. Thankfully, though, it is within reclaim reach of the... Well, I was about to say TA for Life, but the hover has actually pushed back out into the water. TA for Life is not going to get naval control right there. Alex may actually get the reclaim from that, so that would not be good for TA for Life at all. This Northern Navy here, I think this is the most disputed Navy that I have ever seen in my life ever. It has just gone back and forth this entire game. The Southern Navy, not quite so much. It has always leaned a little bit in Damiani's favor. The decision maker has been these Tech 2 artillery banks. But now that the Tech 2 artillery is gone, I think the fall of dawn is not far away. Fall of dawn. When was the last time you heard somebody turn a phrase like that? Ah, terrible puns are terrible. Alright. The other day, I was talking about the Spearhead, and I failed to finish my spiel about it, so I am going to go back to it. The Spearhead is a very unique unit, and I think underutilized. It has some interesting little intricacies about it that are highly, well, I don't know how to say it. It is barrage weapon. The standard TAC missile launcher, the mobile missile launcher rather, fires every once in a while on a steady firing pattern. It has a little bit of trouble overwhelming TMDs, although it can in the case of the Viper. And overall, it does pack a good punch, but it is relatively easily denied and slow firing. The Spearhead, on the other hand, which have been killed, so I can't use them as an example anymore, the missiles travel faster on a slightly lower arc, so TMD does not have as much time to react, and they have a greater chance of hitting a slightly mobile target or one that is not paying attention, since you don't have as much time to prepare. And also they have a front-loaded attack wherein they fire 3 missiles, have like a 7-second cooldown time, and then fire 3 more missiles, which makes them incredibly effective at overwhelming TMD. You can use 3 or 4 of them with a synchronized firing pattern to easily take out fire bases, and then add on top of that the fact that they have very much greater range than the mobile missile launchers do. So they're a handy unit that a lot of people don't build enough of, and I would encourage you to try them out in some game situations. They don't have quite as much range as the Tech 3 mobile artillery. Honestly, you get the best results with Tech 3 mobile artillery paired with spearheads, because you can use the mobile artillery to take down the shields and then the spearheads to pinpoint targets. Now, I wish I had the exact statistics with me. I know the spearhead, I think it's 2,400 damage per firing cycle. So when it fires, the 3 missiles put together, which basically hit back to back, you can see how close they fire here, that packs in 2,400 damage or so. Don't take my word as law on that exact number. And we still, finally, we've got a harm, but only one. Although, since it's fighting hover units, I don't really blame him for only building 1 harm. If you synchronize 4 spearheads, and you can get within range of an ACU and unleash the barrage all at once using hold fire to get them all in range and targeted, and then releasing them, if the first missile hits, the 3rd missile will hit so quickly that the ACU will not have time to walk away. All 2,400 damage from every single spearhead will connect, and you can actually pull off a very good snipe with them. They are the sniper boat of the UEF, and you should try using them sometime like that. I have successfully killed a couple of ACUs at different points using that strategy. I don't use it much because I forget that the spearheads exist. The last time I did it was months ago, to be honest. But it is a strategy to keep in mind as something that is viable. All right. Back to the game. Dawn is floating SACUs and engineers all over the map in an attempt to snag some reclaim. But again, harms don't do a whole lot of good versus hover units, and since the hover units are right there, the harm is going to be able to be spotted right off the bat. Not going to be very stealthy at all. Alright, over here, still contested water, but I do think that Damiani is slowly but surely eating into Dawn's naval force. The only problem are these SACUs, which are building harms. Dawn has finally started the harms creep, and it is devastating as it should be. Alright. I should just start saying, alright, obliterate. Alright, obliterate. Habitual words are habitual. Running at 0 speed, and we are now an hour into this game. And actually I have an hour on the clock for this cast, which is kind of odd since I was running at plus speeds earlier. But I guess when you count in slow periods, the -1s, -2s when there are air fights, and the hitches in the sim, I guess you end up with a number that's actually pretty close to realistic. I am kicking back in my chair, reclining a bit and relaxing at the moment, so if my voice gets a little bit quieter, you know where I went. I promise I'm not screaming at you from across the room. Microphones are kind of finicky, I have found this. When I had a headset microphone, that is a nice little barrage right there. What is that? That is more Tech 2 artillery in the back on a synchronized firing pattern because units came into range at the same time. I used to always do these casts with a headset mic, which kept it close to your mouth, and I didn't realize how much distance affects microphones. But when I'm casting, I normally sit up close to the desk, and I have my microphone sitting here on the desk, and it does a pretty good job of picking up my voice, but it's amazing how when you go from 1 foot away to 2.5 feet away, how much quieter your voice gets. Hopefully when I normalize this at the end, it will take that away. And a nuke! Finally, a nuke! I was waiting for that this whole game. An hour and 3 minutes, and we finally have a nuke. And we're also building another Awasa, apparently. I see that in the chat. There it is. Where is the nuke headed? It is headed towards the south, but I do believe that there is an anti-nuke over here that is loaded, unless there was a strat bomber run, which I failed to get because I was zoomed in on the other side and talking about irrelevant crap. But no, there is the nuke defense. It is not loaded. There is a nuke defense that is nearly loaded but not loaded. That nuke is going to connect. Where's it headed? Oh, it's going to kill the Tech 3 HQ again. No! Alex is getting ripped up one side and down the other. He needs to build 2 HQs or 3. Build 1 in the bay, 1 in his build production, and 1 on the other side of the island. At this point, when you're running 682 mass income, which by the way, holy cow, he has 682 mass income. Another Tech 3 HQ is minimal mass investment. It costs nothing compared to the rest of the forces that you're wielding. But having the backup HQ so that it doesn't get sniped is worth so much, because it will not stall your production. And that is what is about to happen. This is about to be a terrible blunder on Alex's part, because he's already slipping in naval control. Once again, the Navy is switching hands, and I want to look at the reclaim numbers on this, because I'm 100% positive that it's going to be ridiculous. We got 250,000 for TA for life, 296,000 for Alex. Damiani's pulling 121,000. Dawn pulling 230,000. Gizmo Dan at 30. So the winner right now is Alex by a fairly wide margin. And it looks like he is chasing... Did the Owasso go down? Where is the Owasso? I'm sure that's what he was chasing if he's this far north. There it is right there. That is what he was chasing, but I don't think he has enough ASF left now to take it out, considering that TA for Life is going to fall in right behind. No, 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 it is. Oh, it's down. Oh, Gizmo Dan. Why? Why? Worst luck with the Owassos. My goodness. All right. Harms are continuing to go down for the northern team. Excuse me. Actually, that harm came in pretty handy, laying down some advanced damage on those Percivals. This Galactic Colossus, though, is going to vet up very quickly on this because it is conveniently sitting just out of reach of these Percivals. And the Percivals are streaming in instead of coming in a group. He needs to walk this Galactic Colossus right over here and stand directly in the path of all these Tech 3 units coming in. It would basically be an impassable situation unless Alex drew back and regrouped his units. And if he did that, that's going to give the northern team more time to react. So it's basically a win-win, but he is not pushing forward on that for some reason. Alright, let's go ahead and zip around and see. Looks like the guys are exchanging tech. And build power and resources are extremely well distributed on this. They're trying to make themselves nuke-proof, guys. That is what is happening here. The only exception to this is Dawn, who has crammed everything right here together instead of kind of scattering it about. But after a certain point, you know, that's kind of impossible to do. And there are 2 nuke defenses and a substantial amount of navy in between him and a snipe. So I don't think that will end up being a problem. Alright, Alex is building what exactly? Let's find out. Here's the Maver. He's going to try to start it again. And what is he building it with? Looks like he's building it with 2 SACUs. Damiani is teched up like a boss. Well, at least in the back. He does have his mass fab configuration down in the rear. And yeah. Alright, Tech 3 bombers coming in. What exactly were those hitting? I did not see. Oh well. Battleships coming in to hammer down on the island. This is overkill once again. We have 6 battleships. Count them, 6. Trying to kill 1 mass extractor, 2 mobile shields, a flak, and a Tech 1 radar. That is preposterous. Should have sent 5 back and left 1 to clean up the mess after the initial shield segment was broken. And on this side, we've got a combination of sub-hunters and harms, which is being responded to by hover units from Alex. Actually a very good choice, as before discussed. If your opponent has only battleships and torpedo units, hover units are basically invincible. I say that tongue-in-cheek, so they're the best thing to respond with, although TA for Life is producing his own hover in relatively decent quantities, and there is no flak on the front line, so his restorers are going to be able to run about willy-nilly eliminating whoever they please. And flashing around, zeroed out, and -1, not quite running at full speed here. So many units on the map. I would be curious to know. Let's see, we got 900. Oh wow. Share unit cap was on. That's nice. Alright, 2100 units. 3000. 4000. Yeah, 4,200 units or thereabouts. It's amazing how much your unit cap goes up on Setons. Also, another thing that I've noticed, this is completely unnecessary. I have Control K'd engineer configurations assisting factories, and the sim speed has gone up substantially just from that in games that I've played in before. It is absolutely amazing how much engineers drag down the sim speed. And once you're producing on a scale this huge, you can actually start eliminating engineer groupings and going with more support factories. It does actually make your build power more resilient. You will not lose build power quite as easily. You still can, but they are not as fragile as Tech 1 engineers. And the only reason that you want the engineer clumps at the beginning of the game is so that you can reduce the build time on your larger units and get them out more quickly to get an upper hand on the enemy. But when you're in an extended sequence like this, where, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 minutes is not really going to matter that much, support factories are completely fine. And I guarantee you that if all of the engineers, the Tech 1 engineers that we're assisting right now, were Control K'd, this would probably be running at +2. Another thing to remember is that with the recent engineering suite changes, higher tiered engineers are actually feasible as a build power source, especially if you have Aeon or Seraphim Tech. The Aeon and Seraphim Tech 3 engineer is actually almost exactly the same, if not ever so slightly better mass to build power ratio than the Tech 1 engineer. So if you have Aeon and Seraphim, what you should do is, if you want to keep a few factories that are heavily assisted like this, you should trade techs with somebody for Aeon or Seraphim, drop a shield boat or some hover shields in the water over your engineer location, and you should replace this 150 Tech 1 engineers with 35 Tech 3 engineers. It will be cheaper on mass. You can reclaim all of your Tech 1 engineers, and it will increase the sim speed. So just some pointers there for you guys when you get into these long grinding games. Some ways that you can speed it up and do so efficiently without losing an advantage. Even if only one team does it or one person does it, if the sim speed actually runs faster after you do that, it is completely worth it. Damiani needs to redirect some of his hover units. I don't know. This is a hard one to call, because Northern Navy, I don't know that it can actually be saved at this point. I don't think it can. There is so much in here. Hover tanks wiping out the build power. We got battleships laying down fire on the support factories, gradually wiping all of them out. We have, well, there are 2 Atlantises right here. I gotta say that. Eventually those 2 will kill all of the battleships, unless TA for Life can bring air to bear on everything else. And another Owasso, which is coming in to wipe out all of that build power in one clean hit. Bam! Instant 3-vet Owasso. Very nicely done on Gizmo Dan's part, and that is going to be a fairly severe blow to Damiani, considering that he is now not going to have enough build power to keep up with Dawn. Alrighty. What have we got going on? Looks like we actually have plans for Salvation. Do not want to build 4 Tech 3 power generators. The 4th one actually slows it down for some strange reason. You need to build 3 Tech 3 power generators around your artillery piece, and it will actually fire faster than with 4. It is not worth the mass to do that, plus it gives you more room to build shields. So we're going to see how fast the Northern team can throw that down. Alex has an impressive amount of eco still, I gotta say. TA for Life has neglected some of his eco upgrading immediately. Is he... No, he's not even upgrading those Tech 1 mass extractors. So he's about 150 behind Alex at the moment. And Alex is slowly but surely recovering this naval fight, thanks to those 2 Atlantises and all of the spam coming in. Dawn, on the other hand, is struggling to maintain his navy. And I really, really hope that both Damiani and Dawn watch this cast to listen in on these suggestions, because if either one of them had played just a little bit better, either one of them would have won Navy a long, long time ago. So this has kind of been a struggle here that should not have happened. Okay. Ooh, Paragon. I was just coming down here to investigate what's going on. We have a Paragon 51% complete, let's say. Maybe 52%. And going up rapidly. Salvation is about to start on the northern side. Salvation does cost less than Paragon. Depending on how much assistance they can get, if the northern team really doubles down on that thing, they can actually get it done at about the same time as the southern team gets their Paragon up, and Salvation could feasibly kill it. The problem with the Paragon is that you have to build more stuff after the Paragon. There is a slight period where the team has dumped all of their mass into the Paragon, so they're in a weakened state. So you're going to be able to get off a snipe more easily. And then in addition to that, and we have a nuke launch that probably came from over here. Yes, it did. In addition to that, they have not been able to build and load anything from the Paragon being completed. So you have a downtime where you can easily take out the Paragon. And you need to really watch that window. Also, this is the most pointless nuke ever in the history of Supreme Commander. Killing some Tech 1 engineers and 2 capped, 1 uncapped Tech 3 medics. You spent more to build that nuke than you killed with the nuke. Huge swarm of Tech 3 torque bombers coming in to deal with these support commanders. Those are going to get taken out with extreme prejudice, and I would imagine that the Atlantis is next, judging by the situation here. Let's watch for the drops, and there are none. They're going to fly around south. Nope, they are prioritizing the Atlantis, watching the health absolutely fall away from that unit, and now I'm sure that the Navy is secure for the northern team. That was a hard-fought win, but a win nonetheless. We have another Awasa. Gizmo Dan is turning out Awasas like a madman, and honestly, if you put that mass towards the Salvation at this point, I think it would actually work out better. TA for life, putting ASF on the southern side, has preemptively cleared out the air for that incoming Awasa. The Awasa is going to land a beautiful bomb right in the middle of all of that build power. Going to take out 4 support factories and about 150 engineers in one hit. And then it is going to fly around the side. Need to plant a bomb right there and take out all of this as well. Looks like that's exactly what's happening here. And kaboom! There goes all of those pretty mass extractors and a whole bunch more engineers. Alright, TA for life is wasting no time at all bringing his torrents online. He actually preemptively built them. As soon as he saw Navy folding, when he thought that he had enough units to safely take Navy, he built 6 torrents and then pretty much abandoned Navy to do other things. He does still have a battleship building and some other things, but not nearly as much assistance as he did before. He is probably going to pour some extra eco into that Salvation. Alex telling everyone to reclaim everything that they can possibly get their hands on, trying to get this Paragon done. It is almost there. Gonna go ahead and start a whole string of Galactic Colossuses in order to help deny land, and I'm sure they're going to start ringing in SAMs in just a moment here. And then we've got a string of Mavers started for Alex. Alex building Mavers, Damiani building GCs, and both of them need to build SAMs and nuke defenses, which are going down right here. Hopefully they will be loaded in plenty of time to deny any hits. There is a nuke defense in the front line here with 2 loaded. Yes! We're at +1 sim speed. Thanks to the build power being killed off on the southern team, we gained a sim speed and a half. Thank goodness. Holy cow. And you can see what I mean there, guys. That is a beautiful sight to behold when the game actually starts moving faster. Alright, these guys need to turtle like their lives depend on it, because they do. One thing to think about here they have UEF tech. They should be building drones or kennels, whatever you want to call them. But if you're not going to build kennels and you're going to rely on engineers, you really need to think about your pathfinding. And what are these torpedo bombers doing? Ground firing, maybe? No. Can't ground fire Tech 3 torps. That really doesn't work. I'm gonna move over here and do something. Distracting the SAMs, I guess. I don't know. Alright, strap bombers coming in for the nuke defense. And they're gonna nail it. Nuke ready to launch? Not quite yet. I think nuke defense may actually load before it gets done. Alright, back to this over here. If you are building a string of Galactic Colossuses, and you have a ton of engineers, what you need to do is you need to start a Galactic Colossus. Once the Galactic Colossus has started building and all the engineers are assisting it, you need to hold down Shift, you need to hold down Control, and you need to right-click the Galactic Colossus that you just started building. Your ACU, SACU, or Tech 3 engineer, whatever was building it to begin with, it will stop assisting the Galactic Colossus and start building the next one. All of the Tech 1 engineers will continue building it. And then, that way, your higher tech unit, which is going to be building the next Galactic Colossus, your higher tech unit will start clearing the area of engineers and start building it. And then as soon as the engineers finish the first one and move to the second one, you do the same thing, and you do that down your chain. As long as you can remember to go in advance and push ahead with the higher tiered engineering suite in order to stay ahead of your Tech 1 build power, you should actually be able to do really well with that. Alternately, you can place an SACU in the center and then go in a circle at max build range. Ooh, this is not going to be pretty. 2 Awasas centering in, 1 hit, 2 hits. There goes a whole lot of build power. Ouchie wawas. And this is a good thing to have right here. We have an SACU with the comm shield upgrade, the bubble shield, standing over top of the Paragon in order to help deny. But when you have 2 Awasas pounding down on your head, that shield, despite its impressive amount of health, will actually go down eventually. 1 Awasa gets shot down by all the SAMs. 2nd Awasa gets shot down by all the SAMs. Got strap bombers coming in, which are, again, going to get shot down by all the SAMs. Got a Megalith moving in along with a huge, huge complement of Salems. The Southern team does not have enough build power left. That is going to be the problem here. They will not be able to build enough stuff despite having infinite eco to deny the incoming Armageddon. Yeah, the Northern team pretty much owns the entire map. Anyway, on your build patterns, alternately, you can stand an SACU in the middle of an area that is clear of reclaim, and you can build Galactic Colossus, Galactic Colossus, Galactic Colossus, Galactic Colossus, Galactic Colossus, Galactic Colossus. And that way, your engineers are running back and forth across the circle, and they are not interfering with the next unit in the build pattern. And you can actually efficiently use probably 100 to 150 Tech 1 engineers using that pattern without them interfering with each other or the units that are queued up. So that is something that you really need to focus on when you have something like this where the build power and build time is more intensive than your actual eco. You need to be making yourself as efficient as you possibly can in your building. The other thing these guys need to think about is the long-term effectiveness of the build power that they are building. These guys need to be building kennels, and they need to be building a lot of kennels. I know it doesn't look like a particularly useful unit at this exact point, but the problem is, the reality is that it will get exponentially better as time goes on, because the more kennels you have, the more kennels you can build, and the more kennels you have, the more stuff you can build. So once you get 25 kennels up, you can send those 25 drones off. You can start the kennels upgrading, so then you'll have 50 drones, and you'll be building lots of stuff. Because when you have the Paragon, you essentially have infinite eco. So that is something to definitely keep in mind. You need to prioritize your build power and make your building efficient. It looks like the Southern team is actually going to manage to salvage this, at least temporarily. We have another Megalith moving in from the south. There's 2 SACUs there, which are not responding correctly. Pardon me, guys. I had to cough. I have been talking for an hour and 20 minutes straight, and I got to say that my vocal cords are shot at the moment. This Megalith is going to kill off those 2 SACUs and is going to continue its trek southward. That is actually going to be a problem because there's not anything on this side to deal with it. The combined force of all those Galactic Colossuses is finally going to wipe out these Salems. You guys have no idea how funny that looks on my dual monitors. I have Audacity set up on the other screen, and every time I say Galactic Colossus is the waveform pattern looks like a record in a hitch. It's really funny looking. All right, Tech 3 point defense going down. Alex does have his personal shield still online, but that Megalith is just relentlessly hammering away. Galactic Colossus coming in. The Megalith actually has some veterancy on it. Galactic Colossus is going to start zapping away. Alex building shields as quickly as he can to protect his commander while the Galactic Colossus hammers down on the Megalith, and oh my word, so many Strat Bombers. Maybe that is a UEF comm with a full shield bubble. Salvation fire coming down. In addition, Strat Bombers are going to get wiped out. Comm is on about 10 or 15% shield strength. The Salvation is online. You can see the torrential pouring of fire into this base over here. Shields cannot be built fast enough. There are no kennels still. Relying on Tech 1 build power. This is not going to end well. They're going to try to get that Maver online, but with the Salvation hammering down on them, and then the approaching Salems, this is going to be a bit difficult to stop. The shield bubble has gone down on that commander. We're down to a quarter health on the Paragon. Shields trying to be built, but just not enough. Oh, there we go. Finally got a Tech 3 shield online. Another Tech 3 going down. You can see how quickly the health flies off these shields. As soon as that Salvation hits them, there's just so much damage potential in that freaking shield. Got 2 Galactic Colossuses coming in. Can they save it? Got a loaded nuke. We need a point-blank nuke on these Salems is what we need right here. That has got to happen, and has got to happen quickly. There is the nuke launch. Have to see where that goes. Maver is almost done. Paragon is critical. 500 health. The nuke is going to land on the Salems, trying to clean up the area, and the Paragon goes critical. That is going to be game. I think both ACUs were in the blast radius of that Paragon. My goodness, that was hectic. Very, very hectic to say the least. That could have gone either way. Right up till the ending, the lack of build power killed Alex and Damiani. If they had invested in kennels right from the start, they would have won that. As soon as the Paragon came online, the UEF player should have immediately started building kennels. I would argue that they should have been building kennels progressively before that, so they had the build power to utilize. But if they had had the kennels online to burn the mass that Paragon was producing, they would have come out so much farther ahead in the end, because they just couldn't spend. I mean, they were probably only spending maybe 1,000 mass per tick right there at the end, and that's just not enough to deny this weight of fire bearing down on your position. Kudos to the Northern team. Very well played. Good teamwork, supporting TA for life, supporting with air the whole game. Gizmo Dan throwing Awasas out at both navies to try and secure the victory. Southern team, also excellent teamwork. We had hover spam moving over from one side to the other to help try to fend off the Navy. Very well done on all fronts. Good, solid gameplay. Alrighty guys, there is your epic. People have been asking for an epic for a while in the comments and private messages. People have been PMing me on the client as well. There is your hour-and-a-half long Setons, folks, and it was a good one. I hope you enjoyed it. This is going to be the only one that I do for quite some time because honestly I can't stand to sit still this long. So enjoy it while it lasts, and thank you so much for watching, guys, and the support you've given me and this channel. I will catch you in the next round.